Today we're going to do something a little different. It's kind of RV related, camping related. To me, it's a staple for camping or if I'm just staying at home. Something I enjoy very much. I'm sure a lot of you guys out there will enjoy the same thing. This video is a little long. There's a lot of information I have to share with you, so hopefully you stay and watch the whole thing. And if you have any comments or questions, feel free to put them down below. I'll do what I can to answer as many as possible. Hopefully you enjoyed this video as much as I did making it. And thanks again for joining us. We'll play the intro and we'll get right Well, as promised, we're going to do a little cooking today. More specifically, we'll do some roasting. So before we get started, there's a couple of things you need to know. One is safety, very, very important. You don't want to do any of this stuff in the house. It'll generate a lot of smoke, and we're using a lot of flame with this thing here. So you definitely need to do this outside. So before we actually do anything, we're going to show you what I use for equipment. Nothing special about this stuff, nothing magical. You can get it on you can get it on Amazon, or you can get any big box store. You might even have some of the stuff laying around the house. So what we have here is pretty basic. It's just a wisp, no big deal. You got a plastic container, which you're gonna need. We have a Teflon coated wok, which you can get anywhere. I buy a lot of this stuff on Amazon just because it's more convenient than driving all over town trying to find all the parts that I need. This big boy here, this is a 40 or 45,000 BTU single propane burner. It's pretty good size. This thing will put out some serious heat. Of course, you got the cord with the regulator. Just hook it up to a 20-pound tank. This item here, you're definitely going to need. This has a large fan in the bottom and a little bowl with a screen on it. You probably can't see the screen, but this you're going to need. It's very important. So my favorite part is this glass tube. You can buy this on Amazon. It's you can use it to store any kind of food product that you want. What's important about this thing is this plunger. It's got a rubber gasket around the outer edge and it has a one-way valve. So when you put whatever you're going to put in here, you push this down, it'll force the air out and it'll keep this a lot fresher, whatever you have in here. I use this quite a bit. What we're doing today, I don't usually do when I'm camping just because there's too much stuff to carry and I really don't need to do that. So I cook everything I need before we go camping. I'll do enough for 2 to 3 months or however long we're going to be out. So you're probably wondering, what are we doing today? Well, I'm going to show you a couple pictures of before and an after, and we're going to have some fun. You're all going to enjoy this. It's fantastic. So what are we doing today? We're roasting coffee beans. That's right. We have a 5-pound bag from Brazil. And we have a 5-pound bag from Tanzania. I actually love these two blends. Now, just something to keep in mind, depending on where these beans come from, they roast at different rates. So I learned a long time ago, you can't mix the two together, because if you like a dark roast, by the time one gets to a dark roast, the other's going to be burned. So what I do is I cook them separate, and then I will cool them down in this thing here. What this does, after you're done roasting your coffee beans, you want to put them in here right away, and you want to cool them down. This fan will suck all the heat out of the coffee beans. If you don't remove the heat from the beans, they'll keep cooking, and it'll get to the point where it'll be pretty nasty. It'll be burnt. Your coffee will be really bitter. So I don't recommend it. Cool them down as quick as possible. When you're cooking the beans in this, heat and time is important. I usually start out the heat fairly high, and I'll put the beans in, and I'll just start stirring. You got to constantly stir because you don't want them to burn. You want them to cook as evenly as possible. That's also kind of important. So I'll show you more detail once we actually get this set up outside, and we'll start roasting, and you'll see what I'm talking about. This is a lot of fun. You can do it at the campground if you want, or wherever you are. You can do a cast iron pan. You don't need the wok. You can do whatever you have. You can do it on open fire if you like. Just this setup is, I found, the most convenient and easiest way to do it. It's fairly inexpensive. You don't need to buy all those fancy roasting machines that you plug in. You got to do it outside anyway. So this is the best way. It worked for me. You guys do what you want. You try it out, whatever works for you. Like I said, it's not expensive, and it's a lot of fun, and it's so much cheaper doing it this way than it is to go to a store, grocery store, your favorite coffee shop, and buy, a 1 pound bag for $20-something or whatever they charge. It's a lot cheaper doing it this way. Say the beans you can get on Amazon. You can get them anywhere that grows beans, Brazil, Puerto Rico, wherever, Tanzania. I like to search around, try different zones because they all roast different. They all have a little different taste to them. And I like to play around. Sometimes I'll do just one type. Sometimes I'll have some fun and I'll mix the two different kinds, like the Brazil and the Tanzania beans, just to do something different. You do whatever you want. So enjoy, and hopefully you guys try it out. If you have any questions, I'll try and answer a lot of questions. Just throw something in the comments, and I'll see what we can do. All right, let's have some fun. Okay, before we get roasting, we're going to do a couple things here. Some things I need to share with you. First of all, when you use the wisp, you definitely want it to be metal. You don't want to use plastic because it'll definitely melt. This thing gets pretty hot. And this cooling device we're going to use, it's a little noisy, so bear with me. It may show up on the video, not 100% sure. We'll find out. And when we start cooking these, roasting these beans, they're going to make a crackling noise, kind of like Rice Krispies. That may or may not record. We'll try our best without melting the mic. So what happens is when you start roasting, there's moisture in the beans, and they'll slowly expand as the bean starts cooking. And what will happen is they're called cracks. So the first crack, you'll get the bean will expand, and you'll get a skin that comes off, kind of like the skin on a peanut, same type of thing. And as you get more into your roasting, you start getting into the light roast, the medium roast, which the bean will start to change color. You might be able to see that. Then there's called a second crack, which expands the bean probably 4 or 5 times larger than what it is when it's raw. And that's when you start getting into your medium dark and dark roast. So the key here is timing. You don't want to let it cook too long, or you'll burn the beans. And you have to constantly stir them so they cook as even as possible. That's key also. So I usually do all my beans before we hit the road, because I don't need to carry all this equipment for the amount of time that we're actually going to use it on the road. The space that it takes up can be used for other more important gear, and the weight, you don't really need to carry the extra weight, especially in the fifth wheel. So let's get started. First thing we'll do is light this burner and get some beans going. So I usually do maybe a half a cup at a time. It's just easier to cook them that way. It doesn't take as long, and your arm's definitely going to get tired when you start stirring this thing. So let's get some beans in here. It'll probably take maybe a minute or so before they start cracking. I'm going to cook 10 pounds of beans today. I'm definitely not going to record it for you guys to watch, because about as exciting as watching grass grow. But we're going to give you an idea on how it works and see how it goes. So we'll just let it sit here for a few minutes. Just give it a little stir. I have the heat on medium right now. Once I start getting into my medium roast, which will be light brownish, maybe a little darker than light brown, I'll turn the heat down and I'll start working on my dark roast, which will be, I'll turn the heat way down so I don't cook them too hard, too fast. And then once I get to the consistency I want, I'll just take them out, put them in the cooling fan, stir them up in the cooling fan for a little bit until they're cool, and I'll throw them in the plastic bowl, which is right here. You don't want to melt that thing. So once all your beans are cooked or roasted, you want to leave them in an open bowl like this for at least 24 hours and stir them occasionally, because what will happen is the bean will emit a carbon dioxide. And if you put them in a container that's sealed, the pressure will build up. And if it's in the, you'll either pop the plastic cover off, or if you're using a glass container for storage, it'll probably break the glass. So definitely let it sit for about 48 hours, plus the house will smell awesome. Just keep in mind, this should be done outside because this thing will make a lot of smoke and it's pretty hot. So you don't want to do that outside or inside. Sometimes I'll do it in the garage. I'll just leave the garage roll-up door open, and I'll tell you what, the garage smells amazing for about 3 or 4 days. And of course your neighbors will love it too, because they'll smell that roasted bean running around the neighborhood, and it's awesome smell. Yeah, I got a winter jacket on. It's 40 degrees here in New England. It's a little chilly, but we've got a major snowstorm coming tomorrow, so unfortunately. Just when I started to get to see the grass, we got about 8 to 12 inches coming. But it is what it is. It's New England. Weather changes every 5 minutes. So just keep these going. It's going to take a few minutes before they start cracking. Hopefully I can get the mic in there so you can hear that without frying the mic. Yeah, they're kind of expensive. So just keep stirring, let the beans heat up, let them do their thing. May as well take a shot of my Celsius. Stir. Get this thing out of the way. So they're still raw. I say it takes a few minutes before you get these things heated up. I tell you, you have to cool these things down once they're at whatever roast you like, light, medium, or dark, because these beans are really hot. And if you don't cool them down, they'll just keep cooking themselves. So if you like dark roast, that's pretty important. To cool them as quick as possible, because we get to the point where they're going to be burned, and yeah, the coffee just tastes bitter. Unless you like bitter coffee, that's up to you. So a lot of this stuff, all this equipment here, minus the propane tank, even that probably you can get on Amazon. Like I said before, you can get them local. Most of the big box stores will have this stuff. But for the amount of time and gas it costs to drive around in different stores looking for everything, it's just easier to buy it on Amazon. You don't have to worry about it. Okay, so now we're starting to get a little bit of a crack. Some of the skin's coming off the beans. They're starting to turn color a little bit, like a light brown, but still got a little ways to go. Hopefully you can hear that crack. Like I said, it sounds like Rice Krispies. And once they get heated up, they'll just keep going. We'll go more. So just keep stirring. Maybe you can hear them cracking a little. I don't know if you can hear that or not. Keep these stirring. So once I get a good solid first crack going, where there's quite a bit of it going on, I'll start to turn down the heat a little bit, because I don't want them to cook too fast. Just keep stirring. Yeah, it gets a little warm next to that flame. If you have a pair of welding gloves or any kind of work glove you want to use, by all means use it. Don't want to burn yourself. You can see it's starting to smoke, and it smells amazing. Nothing like fresh roasted coffee beans. And that's definitely a lot better than the stuff you buy in the store, and a fraction of the cost. I usually buy 5-pound bags at a time, depending on where you get them from, what seller. You know, it could be 30, 40 bucks for a 5-pounder. I try to do single origin beans, so the grower gets the majority of the money. I don't like going through third-party people because they just jack the prices up, and the farmer gets less of that profit. You know, they're the ones doing all the hard work, and so they earn it. They deserve it. All right, so we're getting into some light roast here, barely. So we're going to turn this temperature down a little bit. So like I said, stirring's key. Timing's everything. And then, of course, cooling them down. I don't know if you can hear that crackling or not. Yep, sounds like Rice Krispies. Just keep stirring, keep stirring. So you don't have to use, like you said, you don't have to use a wok. If you want to have some fun and you're camping, you want to break out the cast iron pan and throw it on the fireplace, you can do that. You're definitely going to need electricity because you got to have that cooling fan to cool these things down. So, like I said, it takes up too much space. I'd rather have camping gear instead of this stuff. Ah, it smells good. All right, let's turn it down a little bit more. All right, so we're on kind of a medium-low heat. Now the wok is heat-soaked and the beans are getting nice and warm. You don't need as much heat, so you want to cook them kind of slow. This cover here came off of my grinder, which still works. It was a 1970s vintage grinder. Thing's amazing. So I use 2 scoops of these at a time, so it's roughly 3/4 of a cup when I put the beans in here. You can do more or less. I prefer to do less just because I can get a more even roast out of these. So now we're into a light roast. There's some that are getting cooked a little more than others, so I got to keep stirring it. So we're at a light brown right now. Still cracking. Still cracking. Yeah, I know this is almost as exciting as watching the grass grow. But it's fun. It's a cheaper way to get your coffee. If you like your coffee like I do. It's something different. So these beans right here, these are the Brazilian beans. I'll do the Tanzania ones later on. It's a Tanzania bayberry. This says Brazil. That's where they came from. So I don't know about you guys, but I mean, some of these beans, depending on where they're grown and the type of soil, they'll have different flavor to it. My taste buds aren't fine-tuned enough to actually notice that nutty flavor, fruity flavor, or earthy flavor, whatever the hell they claim. Yeah, I can't taste any of that. That's just me. Oh boy, that smells good. Alright, we're getting into a medium roast, so it's getting a little bit darker, a little bit on the tan side. I'm getting more and more beans that are getting dark now. So we'll just keep going. I don't know if you can see this the skin. You probably can't. Yeah, there it is. Just like the skin on a peanut. Nobody likes to eat that. That's another thing this fan does. It's got the screen in there, so it'll pull all of this heat out of the beans, and it'll take all the skin and it'll pull it right down to the bottom screen. It'll sift it right out, so when you have your put the coffee in your final container, you don't have a bunch of skin. It probably won't really hurt the flavor, but if I can get rid of it, I will. You're not going to get rid of 100% of it, which is fine. It's all part of the experience, but I prefer not to have it in my coffee. I mean, once it's ground up and you run it through your coffee pot, whatever you use, a French press or a drip coffee pot, or a percolator, you won't even see it. I use mostly a French press when I'm camping. I have a vintage 1970s percolator. It's electric, and that does a really nice job. It's only a 4-cup though, which is fine because I only do 2 or 3 cups, and my wife will do 1 cup maybe, and that's it. So there's no waste. If I have company, we have an old percolator you put on a stove. It's ceramic. I think that's 10 cup. That thing works great too, but you have to be careful. Yeah, I boil that thing too much, and coffee's pretty nasty and it makes a mess if you don't keep track of it. Alright, so we're getting more of a dark roast here now. Beans are getting closer to a dark brown or close to a black. You don't want to cook these too much because then, like I said, you'll end up burning them. You'll dry out the oils. Which brings up another point. Don't put your coffee in the refrigerator. Don't put it in the freezer because it will dry out the beans and this won't taste right. It'll taste stale, taste bitter. It's an old myth that if you put it in the freezer or the refrigerator, it will keep it fresh longer, and that's not true. Just store it in a container like those glass ones I showed you. That'll squeeze out the air. That's all you need. You don't need to listen to the urban myth and, I got to put it in the freezer because it'll last longer. That's not true. All right, getting more of a dark roast, medium roast line right there. So we got a bunch of smoke. That's why you don't want to do it in the house. I'm sure your significant other will not appreciate that. Especially if you're in an apartment or something and you have hardwired smoke detectors. You're going to get a visit from some people and you get a lot of explaining to do. So just play it safe and do it outside. Let's give it a little more heat. So the second crack is pretty much done. So now we're just to the point where we're going to roast these to the consistency that we like. For me, that would be a dark roast. So I'll just keep stirring this thing. We'll get the beans nice and black. And we'll fire up that noisemaker. Put the beans in there, stir them up a little, cool them down. And then once they're cool to the touch, then I'll put them in my plastic container so I don't melt it. We'll shut that thing off, empty out all the skin so there's room for more. And wash and repeat. Do that until all 10 pounds are done. That's pretty much it. Get a little bit more heat. Yeah, I still got a little bit of crack going on. But pretty much all the skin is gone. These beans have already expanded as large as they're going to get. Probably 4 or 5 times their normal size. So now it's just a matter of roasting them until you get whatever roast you like. So it looks like 90% of these are dark brown. So if you like the medium roast, you're right there. I like the dark roast, so I'm going to keep going. So some of the videos out there will tell you, 10-15 minutes to cook these things. Depends on your temperature. It could take longer, but if you turn the heat up a little bit, you can cook them a little faster. But you gotta be careful because if you don't watch the color, you're gonna burn them. That's guaranteed. And nobody likes a bitter coffee. At least I don't. And everybody's different, obviously, but Still got a little bit of cracking going on, so there's still some moisture in those beans. They're still expanding a little bit, it looks like. It's hard to tell. But you can tell there's still moisture in them because it's still cracking a little bit. Oh yeah, we're getting there. Got some smoke going on here. Hands are getting a little warm, which is a good thing because it's chilly out. Still cracking. Oh yeah, now we're getting closer to a dark roast. Yeah, so like I mentioned before, just be careful. Safety, safety. I was brought up in a safety culture. You don't want to burn yourself. It's not pleasant, obviously, but yeah, just wear gloves if you have to. You know, if it gets too hot, I switch hands once in a while just to cool this one down. Metal wisp, obviously it's going to melt if it's plastic. And that's about it, really. Just keep doing this until we get nice and dark. Still got a ways to go. I'll edit some of this video so you don't have to sit here and watch me stir this stuff all day long. Still got some cracking going on. I don't know if you can hear that. There we go. Get these stirring. Whee! Got some smoke going now. Oh boy, I tell you, the neighbors are going to come running when they smell this. Alright, let's turn the heat down a little. Getting into the dark roast. I don't know if you can see that, probably not with all this smoke. Yeah, they're getting pretty dark now. Ooh, smoke is rough. Alright, going to turn on that noisemaker pretty soon and get these things cooled down and get them filtered. Get all that skin out of there. Alright. Yeah, I say we're about there. So let's take these out. Let's turn this thing on. Pour these beans in here. Let's go this way so you can see it. Alright. So get these stirred. I'm going to cool them down. That'll take the skin out of here. Throw a couple more in. Do a little bit more. Get these stirred. Let's give these probably a minute or so to stir. They cool down pretty quick once you get the air circulating through them. Yeah, they're already pretty cool. Get these going so we don't burn them. We got the heat on low right now, so those should be okay. Right, stir these. Oop, be careful. Don't want to waste those beans. Okay, it doesn't take much to cool them down. So these are done. Shut that noisemaker off. Okay, that's that. Now this thing here, you can see all the skin in here. You just dump that on the ground. That's it. Plug it back in. Put the basket in. And we're ready for another round. So that's it. Doesn't take too long. Say key is time and temperature, and keep it stirring, and have fun, man. This is a fun little project to do, and it's a lot cheaper, tastes a lot better than store bought. And good luck with you guys. I hope you do it, and hope you enjoy it. And maybe we'll see you on the road. Thanks for joining us.